Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Podcast 34. And we've come up into Telford at Telford Town Football Club. And we are honoured to be joined by the current chairman, Ade.
How you doing? You all right, mate?
I'm living the dream.
Enjoy the drive up, yeah?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
No,
well,
I
wasn't doing the driving, to be fair.
No,
So-
he was asleep snoring after.
You played it well then, yeah. You were driving and avoiding all the rain while you were just nice and comfy.
I did put on the cruise control for a
I can imagine,
Yeah.
blaming this weather doing that, but fair play.
So you're the chairman here at this football club.
Yeah.
And you're currently in the 7th tier of football.
We are, yeah.
So you sort of go into that towards semi-professional, I guess.
Yeah, well, we went to semi-pro a year ago. We
Yeah.
started as semi-pro.
So what was the challenges and...
So coming into here, I mean, I've been involved with football for a while at different levels. I played for a long time. Wasn't particularly good, but I played. And then I got involved with a previous club, Hensford. I was there for a few years and came out of that and decided I wanted to do something different where I could build something from the ground up and try and do something with a bit of a community focus and with a long term, rather than just a lot of football clubs. You go in at the level you can afford, and you're just constantly trying to stay afloat, rather than going, okay, let's build something from the ground and move it upwards. So we came in, it's actually a year ago tomorrow. So we're filming this on the Sunday. Obviously, it was a year. It'd be Monday. We came in. The club was called Wellington Amateurs at the time.
Yeah.
It had been going since 1950. It was run fantastically well by a group of volunteers, and they're all still here. They're all part of the board now, and they work really hard for the club. And it was just they were doing it just to have a football club here.
Yeah.
And we sort of sat down with them and said, right, if we're going to do this, one of the issues is the name. Because although Wellington Amateurs is a beautiful name and it's a historical name around here, it's difficult to sell that sponsorship-wise. So commercially, if you say Wellington Amateurs to somebody who doesn't necessarily know the history behind it, they think it's a Sunday league because of the word amateurs. So the board, they'd already had a conversation about the name previously, I believe, and they'd considered something. The name Telford Town came round. I put it to the board, who were already here, committee members, and they came up with the name. And I went, yeah, I love it. So we done the deal. We went, right, brilliant. And then, as you can see outside today, as you've seen the pitch, it's the kind of same last January, absolutely soaked. Now I know we played a game yesterday, but that's because this year we've had a bit of a later start with the rain, haven't we? We took over the football club, and it was really exciting, except the fact we didn't play a game for 6 weeks. Because we were at home and away. Everybody was called off constantly because of the weather. Now, the bits people don't realise what that is, whilst you don't have to pay your players if they're not playing, so the good thing at this level. The downside is the electric bill still comes, the water bill still comes, the gas bill still comes. So that's one of the biggest challenges, is always making sure that the club's got enough money. And it can't always, as I said before to somebody, and I said it to you guys when we were chatting earlier, wasn't I? You can't just rely on one person to fund a football club forever, because nobody lives forever. I like to think I will, but I don't. Peter Pan isn't actually me. I just think I am. And the long and short of it is, eventually, there's got to be a way, because I could be hit by a bus scenario. How does this club exist tomorrow if I go tomorrow? So, quite a morbid start to the conversation there. Sorry, but so that's one of the biggest difficulties, is making sure we're playing catch up on ourselves. So I front load something. So we go, okay, we're going to do this part of the club. And whether that's investment in the first team, whether it's investment in the ground, the women's section, the juniors, whatever it is. But then we have to work out, how is that going to be funded if I die tomorrow, type thing, because the club's still got to be here. So that's probably the biggest challenge, is always making sure the club's got enough revenue generating, rather than me just going, here's some more money. And that's the difference between, you have clubs that, particularly in non-league, they'll have 3 or 4 years where they'll go really, really good. They'll win leagues, they'll get promotions, because they're just being funded by one person, constantly pumping money in. And then when that guy gets bored, runs out of money, or whatever the situation is, the club literally disappears. And there's been some really good clubs over the years that have had exactly that. And they've had to reform, or they've had to, it's a difficult process. So you don't want to do that.
Right.
So it's a challenge. Just sometimes it's a challenge making sure you got enough money coming in to keep the lights on. Now I'll top it up, but you still want that revenue coming in. Do you know what I mean?
So you're trying to build the sustainability of the club.
So when we came here, the average they'd get like 30 people through the gate and things like that. That's fine when you're an amateur club, and and look, I'm not knocking that because the guys who ran this club for years, one of them, Dave Gregory, I never met him. He was the chairman here for years. Did an absolutely amazing job.
Yeah.
I looked at not just this football club. I looked at a few football clubs. I didn't see a single one that didn't have any debt apart from this football club.
Wow. Yeah.
So they'd run it just incredibly. And they're still part of the club now, these people. And I admire them so much for being able to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about going, okay, we went from 30 to 40, we've now got a few hundred people coming through, and it's great, and it's a really good atmosphere. Where's that next stage?
Yeah.
It's also knowing where's too far as well. Where's the point where it's not possible for the club to fund it itself in the future? If we got to 5 promotions up, step 2 or something, and you've still got 300 people coming through your gate, you can't fund that because the player wages are higher, your bills are higher, even down to what it costs you to play in the league is higher.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're becoming reliant again on one person because there's no way of playing that catch up. So it's knowing your limitations. I think it's a big thing. Knowing where we go, okay, we're ambitious, but we're not stupid.
Yeah. So you're just trying to grow the club at the same time as you're growing the performance to try and
it's chicken and the egg, I always say. You know what I mean? You can chase the egg around, but if you ain't got a chicken, you know what I mean? There's no egg. And that's the thing is, so when we came in, they had a first team here and a development team. Development team is, to me, it's a reserve team. It's what I always call reserves, but development's sort of a new word that we use in football because somebody got bored and changed the name of it. So we had these 2 sides, and that was all the club had. And it was understandable because when you're an amateur club, you've got to think of the funding. One of the things we said is, I want a big junior section. I want a women's team. I want to build a women's section. I want to build a disability section. So we've got disability football. We're having a bit of a community section where you've got people who don't necessarily want to play competitive football juniors, but they want to just come and have fun. We've even got the future stars, which are like 5-year-old and under. Yeah. And they're absolutely brilliant. I love watching them. Like, they just play for fun. Yeah. But you build all that. And we did it in the summer. We worked really hard last season to build a youth section, which sometimes takes years to do, and we did it in like 3 or 4 months as a club. And we've got everyone from under 7s through to under 15s. We've got a ladies team in who they're absolutely stunningly brilliant, to be honest. They've not lost a game all season. They've scored like nearly 100 goals in 10 games or something. Yeah. They were one game like 19-0. Like, you're sitting there just going, Jesus, they are superb. And one of the things we wanted to do is make sure they're given the same opportunity at the football club as the men's teams, because and me and Ellis, who's the women's manager, we spoke about this quite a lot. Women's football, whilst it's on the rise and it's fantastic, it's being used in some clubs as a money-making scheme, so they can get grants or so they can get stuff for themselves, rather than the reality of it being that they're actually given equal opportunity. So the men's first team and the women's first team both play here. Yeah. You know, there's no, you're our women's first team. Yeah, great. Oh, and here's a park pitch you go and play on. Or we'll go and rent you somewhere at the council. So it's about building both of those teams, but also building behind that sort of the junior section and things like that, because they're the future people who will run the club.
Yeah.
That 14-year-old now is running around, and when he gets older, he hasn't made it as a footballer. Do you know what I mean? But he does well in business or does something. He was remember his time at his football club. He's become a supporter. Then all of a sudden, I decided I'm calling it a day, or like I said, be hit by a bus. I have to keep being miserable. But he could be the next chairman. But you don't have that. And again, non-league football for years. The only criticism I had was for years it forgot to try and bring new supporters through. It sat on the old guard, and it put so much reliance on older volunteers. And as I said earlier, none of us are immortal. So what happened was these clubs, obviously the volunteers got older, they couldn't do as much. And then all of a sudden they've got nobody to replace those guys. And non-league football, doesn't matter how much money you invest into a team, your volunteers is whether or not your football club survives. Because they're the guys, you've seen the start of our pitch today, it's absolutely sad. They're the guys who'll come and work on that all week. They're the guys who'll tidy this place up after the darts night last night. They're the people who will man the turnstile, cook the food. They're all volunteers. And that's not just here, that's every non-league football club, probably up to conference level, you know what I mean? They're the difference between a football club surviving and not. But again, all that's only going to come if you build the infrastructure behind it with those youngsters coming through.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. We've got an academy we're starting as well, which is quite cool. So it's like a full-time education thing.
Wow.
So the kids will be here 5 days a week, 16 to 19-year-olds, doing a college course, as we'd have called it. It's a BTEC in sport and stuff. So it's not, again, with that, yes, they're showcasing themselves to play against, West Ham are in the same league. We're going to be in Crystal Palace and a few others. Absolutely amazing, to play in their academies. But it's more about building them and making them and giving them a good future. And what we want to do is make them good people. Yeah. Our first team manager, Boz, he's got a fantastic line. People always ask him when he's interviewed about players. And he said, I can make a good footballer out of a good person.
Right, yeah.
But I can't make a good person out of a good footballer.
Yeah. No.
And I absolutely love that. Yeah. Like, it was something that just struck me where I went, I love that. And that's what we're trying to do. Like, our junior teams, we've got a policy about how much time to play. Now, we will play kids football growing up. And if it's a win at all cost thing, you can have a kid who's paying the same subs as the other kids to be there. He's paying his £5, but he's getting 10 minutes. Yeah. And mum and dad are bringing him out in the rain. It's soul destroying for the kids. So we put in a policy as a club, the junior section, they all get equal time. I don't care whether you're the next Ronaldo or whether you're the next me. You know what I mean? You're absolutely crap. You'll have the same time. We put the same time in them because it's about building the whole club. Yeah.
So it's like you say earlier, they alluded to, so the ones that maybe not make it on the pitch, they're still getting that qualification.
Yeah.
Because obviously football, any sport, there's lots of other jobs, right from, let's say, physios to business managers to ticket offer, and anything in between. So it's giving them opportunity.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's about trying to give people those different opportunities in football. Yeah. When you grow up, you think football is about 22 people on that pitch, plus a ref, plus a linesman. Yeah. And that's it. That's where football, it starts and ends at 3 o'clock and the whistle goes at 5 and everything shuts. Yeah. And they don't realise when you're sitting here, like once a month, you've got to sit there and pay the electric bill. Yeah. Yeah. Or you've got to have somebody who's going to deal with commercial stuff, social media. There's so many different avenues. Now, I've got a big thing about AI. Yeah. And I think it will creep more and more into sport as well because it has to, because it's going to become more and more part of our daily lives in the sense, in the same way the internet. Yeah. 30 years ago, the internet existed, but nobody used it that much for their business.
It's like the Amazon of the 1990s, isn't it?
I totally agree. I mean, you look at 30 years ago, or maybe a bit longer, the internet existed, but it was very basic. Your business didn't necessarily need the internet to run. Yeah. Now, if you want any business now, right, whether it's a baker, candlestick maker, whatever you want to call it, you have a website. Yeah. Almost the first thing you do when you set up a business is put your website up. Yeah. And I think AI is going to do the same. And I think it will become, it's already part of sport to some extent, but I think it'll become more and more. And again, I think if we can get the young kids learning that at an early age, it gives them such an advantage then because they already understand football and they understand AI. Yeah. Not just at non-league clubs like us, but you think professional clubs?
Definitely. Yeah.
They could go and end up making themselves a career where they can earn good money. Yeah. So again, that's a big thing for me. Is it's not all about football.
The thing is, obviously, there's a lot of efficacy questions on AI, which could be a whole different podcast. But the fact of the matter, and again with social media, the cat is out the bag. And the AI has been released, and it ain't going back in. So it's either be scared of it or learn about it. I think now, if you, like you say, if you don't learn about how to use it, you're very quickly going to miss the boat.
Totally.
I think whether we like it or not, it's going to be, like you say, a big part of society. So we might as well try and make good of it where we can.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I'd say it's like anything. When a new technology comes in, we all get told it's going to destroy the face of the earth. Yeah. I remember the Millennium Bug could destroy the whole banking system.
The computers were going to go all reset to zero. And the whole thing was
we were all told that, and then it hit midnight, and everyone went, "Oh, nothing's happened."
I think we all got disappointed, really.
I grew up watching the Terminator. I was buzzing. I thought he was going to appear or something. Because you got told Rise of the Machines and all this. I had a vision of my PC, started walking off down the road. But I just think that if people don't embrace it and don't embrace new things like that, then they will get left behind because whether you want to do it or not, it's going to happen.
No,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is.
You know,
I
so-
think it's just how the world's changing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, everything's getting more advanced with the technology.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just the way forward now.
Definitely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Look, is it a bad thing? No, because
No.
if it can improve things on how we do them, I don't see a bad thing to it as long as it's done right. Like you said, there is a lot of ethical questions. We can sit here and debate that till tomorrow morning, you know, because there are a lot of problems with AI because it can be used for the wrong purposes. Yeah. But I still think it's something that, as I say, even for sport, it's going to be massive.
Yeah. So obviously you are a chairman, and a lot of viewers probably have either misconceptions or maybe negative thoughts about the chairmans of football clubs. So what is your day-to-day job as a chairman? What is your role, so to speak?
Try and define the role. I mean, the first thing is I'm probably not a normal chairman in the sense I'm not, you know, I don't walk around in a suit. It's not league football anyway. So a lot of chairmen are. Yeah. But I'm not a multi-millionaire. I'm not walking around in a suit. I don't sit in an ivory tower overlooking the pitch and occasionally summon one of my minions to bring me some couscous. I'm here. So, for example, I'll give you a match day. So I'll get here about 12 o'clock. Yeah. Maybe half 12, depending on what the day's going. But I'll always get here. I'll set the music up. Yeah. So the Tano system's working with the music. We do all the graphics on the screen, so the team sheets go on there, different things. We do the website, so I'm sitting there doing that. So during the game, obviously we've got a website that you can follow, an app that you can download. And so if you're not at the match, it'll tell you that, who's just scored or who's a yellow card. Yeah. That's me basically doing that on my phone during the game. Not just me, there's a lot of volunteers as well. And we're all running around doing things. So that's a match day. So I don't really stop until literally 3 o'clock. The game starts at 3 o'clock, then I'll stop and I'll just watch the match. So I between 3 and 4:45, that's me time. Yeah. All right. I'm usually found pacing up and down the sidelines thinking I'm still playing. Occasionally having a disagreement with the linesman and questioning his eyesight. That's how I'm to talk. But yeah, and then I'll come in the bar afterwards, lads, I'll have a drink, but even then I'm still watching things like, what's the revenue, what's our numbers through the gate today? Yeah. And straight away in my head going, right, okay, that covers this. Yeah. Sunday morning I'll get up, I'll go and get involved because I run the under-7s team because my lad plays, so I'll go and run the under-7s football as well. Keep in touch with all the other teams. Women's team playing on Sunday, so I'll come up here and watch them if I can. Speak to people and say, how you got on, what's the result, is there any problems? And then during the week, it's trying to find ways to make money for the club. It's trying to find what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, what's working, what's not. Yeah. But there's pretty much, apart from the actual football inside, which I don't get involved with. I've got a great relationship with the managers of both the men's and the women's team and the reserves, but I'd never turn around to them and say, right, you're playing John up front on Saturday because I want to see. I don't do that. I don't get involved with team selections and things like that.
So that's your trust that you've put in that manager to do the job.
Yeah, ultimately, there's a reason that they're in place. Yeah. If I thought I could do a better job than them, I'd have been a manager. Right. Yeah. And this is the thing. You do get a lot, especially in non-league, a lot of chairmen who are basically frustrated managers. They wanted to be a manager, so they become a chairman, but then try and dictate to me. If you ever meet Boz, our manager, or Alice or Andy, they're the kind of people. If I sat down to them and went, "You're playing so and so up front," they go, "You can go away nicely." They are. But it's like any business, isn't it? If you put somebody in place to do a job, right, whether it's a cleaner or whether it's a managing director, right. Yeah. Ultimately, what's the point in, let's say the cleaner, what's the point in me employing John as a cleaner and then going around behind him as he's sweeping up and sweeping up again? Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah. Let people get on with what they're good at. If you trusted them to be your manager, let them be your manager. So the footballing side is probably the one side I don't get involved with in terms of players we're bringing in or letting go, anything like that. The only thing I do is I'll set a budget and I'll say to the manager, work to that budget on wages. And to be fair, I'm very lucky here. We've got a manager, literally, he will work to that budget. He doesn't come to me and go, oh, I've gone over budget a little bit this week. It's, the only times we ever go over budget is if it's pre-arranged where we say yes, because, I don't know, we've got 2 games in a week and we've got to use more players. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of a day-to-day really of what you do. It's a juggling act, but you also do whatever comes up. Answering a question on social media, sharing it across every Facebook group you can find to try and get another 10 people through the gate. Dealing with local councils. If you want to get something done, and just constantly trying to work on a strategy. I always say that great thing with football clubs is everyone does a business plan at the start when you take over a football club. Well, we did one a year ago. It's useful for my kids to doodle on now because it's got no relevance on what actually happens. Because a football club changes that much week to week.
Yeah.
Not so much the players, they don't notice changes because that's not their job. Their job's to go and win football matches. But little things can go on around the club that, all of a sudden something breaks down.
Yeah.
It's an unexpected cost. The lawnmower breaks down. Right? We've got to go and find another 500 quid.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, even down to, so we're hopefully going to get promoted. We're fighting for promotion at the moment. We're 15 points clear, the first team. The women's team are second at the moment because they've got a game in hand. Now, the women's team go up. Their league's fairly concentrated locally still, so we don't have to worry too much about travel. With the men's team, we think we'll probably go into the North West Counties League if we went up. Now, I've already estimated that's going to cost us another 10 grand a season just in coaches, because anything more than an hour, realistically, you can't ask lads to travel more than an hour and play a game of football. It's a bit much. And I'm saying that to two guys who just drove 4 hours. But
we're not doing it on a week on.
Yeah, I haven't got you here going, right, here's a kick, go and play. You know what I mean? And obviously, we can play against better sides and better budgets. So straight away, I've gone, right, that's a hole we've got to fill because, yes, I can fund it for us, but what if? So what's the backup plan? So again, I've gone, right, okay, we've looked at different ideas and we're having a big five-a-side tournament in the summer. So we're hosting a five-a-side tournament from under 7s to under 16s, boys, and another one for girls. That's what's going to raise us that money. So that's in the pot, so we can get on with that. Pitch works have got to be done. And so you spend a lot of time just speaking to different people around the club and going, okay, when can we do this? Again, my ability when it comes to handiwork is zero. Like, I am the official man who buys the IKEA thing, looks at the box and goes, I don't know. Right? So I rely on the people around the club if something breaks. Right? If something breaks that can be fixed, I'll ring somebody who's at the club who's really good at that and go, how long is that going to take? What's it going to cost? And if it's something minor, that's not a problem. If it's something major, I don't know, the floodlights went or the electrics went, that's a major problem that you don't expect. That I've then got to go, how are we funding that? How do we cover that problem? So you firefight a lot of time, but not in a way that you think it's not where you're firefighting as in stressful firefighting to keep the doors open. Sometimes you're firefighting over the most silly things. But it's, even kind of monitoring food prices. Are we competitive with other clubs, or are we, getting to that point where we're going, we can't charge that because it's not, we're lucky with our food supplier that they're like really good, they're award winning and all this stuff. So, but you still have to monitor the prices to make sure you're also getting the money in, because if you keep things the same price, that's great and it's really good value for people. But the problem is every year the bills go up, don't they? Sometimes it's quite boring because you're sitting there working out how much is the electric bill gone up this January to last January. And you're going, it's a 15 pence increase there. But you've got to then think, okay, but you don't know what's going to happen next year. So you spend most of your time pre-planning and just trying to work on ideas. Speaking to other clubs as well, because one of the most important things I learned, and one of the big lessons at Hensford, so when I first went at Hensford, I was quite argumentative, if I'm honest. I was still a bit young. Hensford's a massive club in non-league. And I went in as vice chairman, but I was a bit stupid. Like, I'd gob off about things. I'd argue with people all the time. I fell out with clubs. I fell out with supporters at Hensford, all sorts of things. And I look back on it now and I've learned a lot from that, because you need to have those relationships, because you never know when you need to pick up a phone, that's going to favour. Whether that's your centre forward's injured and you want to know if they've got somebody they can loan because your manager wants a player on loan, or whether it's, Christ, we haven't got, the bulb's got in one of the floodlights, but I know he's got the exact same floodlights and they've got 10 spares. Well, that's all well and good if you get on with them, but if you've sworn at them or something, you know what I mean? Really, in the heat of the moment in a match, they ain't going to go, yeah, of course I'll sort you out. So it's doing things like that. Just, for me, it's just trying to learn. You learn on the job. I once did an interview when I was at Hensford, when I went back the second time, just keeping them afloat, really. And somebody said to me, what's the biggest thing you can tell somebody about being a football chairman? And I said, it's very simple. There ain't no course you can do. There's no qualification. There's no guidebook. And it's like no business you'll run anywhere else in the world. You literally learn on the job. There's no such thing as a football club chairman who knows everything, because you can do it for a year or you can do it for 20, 30, 40 years. There's still going to be something different. So if I'd have been chairman here 30 years ago, right, football was totally different 30 years ago. As we were saying earlier, 30 years ago,
it's changed.
the highest paid players were on 5, 10 grand a week.
Yeah.
You've now got a player on 1.3 million quid a week.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest transfer fee in the world at the time, I remember Alan Shearer going for like 15 million.
Yeah,
Everyone was like stunned somebody paid 15 million.
Yeah.
Now you can't get a reserve fullback in the Premier League for 15 million quid.
Yeah.
You know, a lad plays 3 games for the first team, and all of a sudden you got £80 million price tag slapped on.
Yeah.
So even at non-league, things have changed, right? And
does that have a domino effect on you guys as well? Then, so do sort of even players that get into a good standard think, "Oh, I should be on"?
Money's always. I mean, look, you get players who overvalue themselves, right? But it's no different to. We've all worked in security.
Yeah.
You'll have doormen that overvalue themselves.
Oh, you get it all the time.
Yeah, you know, the number of times I see people. I still run a security company, and we'll get, you know, somebody wants a job, but they want 25 quid an hour because they've been doing it for a year.
Yeah.
I'm going, I've been doing it for 10 years. I'd love 25 quid an hour.
Yeah.
If you find a job, let me know and I'll come.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not we should, again, we can have a whole debate on the fairness of the prices on door staff, because it is underpaid for what we do. And you know what I mean? It always has been, unfortunately, since I started. Yeah. But it's a reality. Footballers are no different, right? Yeah. You get good players who undervalue themselves to some extent, but not many. Most of them know their worth. But that goes back to the good people thing. Yeah. You have a footballer come in, right, who's a fantastic player. And I mean, I'm talking, you know, he could score, centre forward say, could score 35, 40 goals a season. But he won't get your promotion if he's an absolute nightmare in the change rooms. If he's walking around the change rooms going, I'm on this, I'm on that, and the other players don't like it, it doesn't matter how good he is. So sometimes you'll actually turn around, you'll learn a lot about somebody when they're asking for money. If you know, and look, people in football sometimes think football chairmen don't know each other on boards. You do. So if I've got a player who's coming in to talk to us, and I know he's been at club X, I'll phone their chairman if I know him and say, well, I know he's not with you anymore. What was he on with you? Now, even if he's had another move in that time, he's not going to jump that much. So if he was on, let's just use some round figures, he's on 100 quid. At this club.
So 100 quid a game we're talking.
It's 100 quid a week. So if you play 2 games a week, it's still 100 quid. Which really annoys every player in non-league, and as chairman, it's the only bonus you get. Right? So let's say he's on 100 quid at club X, and he moves to club Y. At most, they've offered him 150 maybe. If he walks in and says, I was on 300 quid, I know what kind of person you are. And Boz knows what kind of person you are, so he does not really want you in the change rooms. And I know damn well as well that I'll give you your 350 quid that you're looking for, which, by the way, I wouldn't pay a player at this level. It's not right. But I know damn well that Club Z up the road offers you 400 quid the week after. You're going to walk out and go there. So, yes, non-league players can overvalue themselves, but generally, most of them are quite sensible. I've not found many that aren't, because, especially the more experienced lads, the lads who are in the late 20s who have been non-league players a long time, you know what I mean? They accepted they didn't make it as a pro, but they're still very good non-league footballers. Generally, they know what they're worth. You're not going to get away with offering them less than they're worth, because they'll go, well, I can go and work on a Saturday. But generally, they're all right.
So with non-league football, do you get any support from organisations like the FA or anything like that?
I'm not sure if the FA are aware football exists this far down the pyramid. I think they know it exists when they send you a fine for a red card. I'm doing a bit of a disservice there. So what happens is, it's not so much the main FA. The main FA have zero interest in non-league football, and I don't mind saying that. I don't care if it upsets them, because it's the truth. Everybody in football knows the main FA have no interest in football. They only became aware that the conference really existed when Wrexham were there and doing a documentary. Right? They don't care about it. The local county FAs do. So we're the Shropshire FA. Local county FAs are usually a lot better. And ours is, I always, you know, I've got issues with the main FA and the way they run football. But the Shropshire FA are actually really good. But that's because they're local people as well. So they care about the local clubs. You don't necessarily get financial support because they haven't got a lot of cash. Because again, the lovely FA at Wembley that sit there in their ivory tower, they don't filter much money down to the local FAs either. So they run on a shoestring themselves. They do a fantastic job. You don't tend to get much funding like that, if I'm honest. There's certain funds you can go for. You can go for grants and things like that for works, but you just have to find some of it yourself. So, for example, if you want to install a 4G pitch at your ground, which is one of the best revenue drivers you can have, it will cost somewhere, let's say you've already got floodlights that are acceptable by the way. So if you need floodlights as well, goes up. Let's say your floodlights are okay, somewhere between £750,000 to £900,000.
Yeah.
The Football Foundation, if you can provide the right evidence and you tick their boxes, just in terms of their requirements, will provide, I think it's about 70% of that money, which is really good. Yeah. And they are funded partly by the FA, but in reality by a bit of TV money from the Premier League and things like that. What you'll find is they will then, they'll cover 70%, but you have to provide proof of funds for the other 30%. Now, it's not a problem. If you can get the 30% paid by another thing, you can do that. So you haven't necessarily got to use it yourself, but you have to prove you've got that 30% covered, which is still a lot of money. You know, I'm not knocking it. I mean, the fact that they did the 70% in the first place is bloody amazing. But it's still a lot that you have to consider. It's a lot of outlay for the return. And again, when you consider a lot of clubs, and like this place was obviously before myself and before it became a more business-focused place, they're run by committees. They're run by just normal guys who have got a job. You know, they can't afford to put money into a football club. So everything's self-generated. They're never going to be able to afford
trying
that.
to find just under £1 million. Or just under 300,000.
You're talking, it's a world apart, isn't it? You know what I mean? But I still think it's good. And they are good with certain things. They'll also do smaller stuff like they'll help you towards pitch maintenance, things like that. But everything's always going to be matched. Right? Nobody gives you nothing for free in football. That's the one thing I'll say. Is nobody in football does anything for free. But what you usually find is it's people like the supporters at non-league clubs in particular who will find ways to rally around to earn that money.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I love about non-league is if you have an issue, you'll usually put something on social media. We needed, when we changed here to TTFC Limited, our business, because previously it had been committee run. The lease here from the council was in Wellington Amateur's name, and we said, well, we need it into TTFC Limited, that's the law. And we went through all the paperwork and we did everything, and then the council said, but for us, you have to have a solicitor to have looked at it. No, I'm not a solicitor, and I don't particularly know one. So we stuck it on Facebook, and within 5 minutes, 2 or 3 people who followed the club recommended a solicitor, etc. That didn't cost us any money because they did it out of care for the club.
Yeah, it's good.
That would have cost us money, you know. Even down to sponsors and things like that. You know, sponsors here aren't, the Chinese noodle companies or the boiler companies. Or, we haven't got a boiler guy running around at half time or something like that. But they're not big businesses, right? You've not got Nike, sort of sponsoring your football club or giving you money to let you supply kit. You know, you haven't got Sharp or I'm just trying to think of who else is sponsoring football, but big names, Sony. They're not interested, which is understandable because they're commercial. What the people who support you is Bill's shop down the road or give you $3,000. You know what I mean? And that $3,000 will fund, I don't know, 5 of the junior team's kits. Or we've got companies all over the place who do it. It's not always local companies. I mean, we've got a company in Spain that chucks us some money because I knew him obviously from when I lived in Benidorm. And I still know him quite well. So he chucks me like £500 a year as a sponsor support and stuff like that. It's never going to make him any money. But it's just something that they do to support him. So non-league football it goes back to what I said, volunteers and supporters and what keeps a non-league.
So going back to the start of the conversation, we said you wanted the community focus. I don't think you can get any more community focus than that. It's sort of not only you bring in the fans into the club itself, and that keeps it keeps the wheels turning, I suppose.
I learned, you can be a chairman, and being a chairman's great. You can say, I own a football club. You don't. You own the shares in the business, right? Football club belongs to the community of people who support it. Because without them, right, if you take the supporters out, and we had it, didn't we, when we had COVID? You take supporters out of football, whether it's the Premier League or whether it's non-league, football is crap. It's boring. And this is as a man who I grew up obsessed with football, right?
Even watching on telly during COVID, it was just, it wasn't the same.
Even the players as well. Like I know a few players who are professional players who work at the time, and they've said it was awful because even when they started piping the noise in, they started piping through the stereo, the crowd.
Yeah.
And then, like, it's weird. Like, you score a goal, and one of the things you do is you celebrate with the crowd. It's, you know, a tackle. It's just all the noises that you associate with football. And for me, that's the thing. As a chairman, whether it's of a club like ourselves at lower level, whether it's chairman of Manchester United, right? You own shares in a business. You don't own that football club.
No.
The people own that football club, and it's been proven, because every time a club goes bust, it's the people that save it. You think Portsmouth, you know what I mean, not far from where you guys are from.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. They were owned by all these millionaires and pretty much anybody who'd take it at one point. I mean, I think they had a new owner every other week. But the reason Portsmouth is back where it is and back being as a big club as they should be is the supporters took it on, rebuilt the whole damn club themselves. Yeah. And that for me is proof.
I think the biggest example that's Wimbledon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where their club was effectively stolen from them, turned into moved 120 miles away to MK Dons, and that was it. And then the supporters going, well, we're going to have to do something and rebuild the club. Yeah. From the ground up, and
that was I mean, that's not. I've said before, I've criticised the FA before. The only thing I will say in their defence there is it was the first time it ever happened. And they immediately said afterwards, we'd never allow that to do it happen again. But it was a horrible situation, manipulated by one or two people for financial gain. Now, I'm not saying the people of Milton Keynes don't deserve a football club, by the way, because they do. But they don't deserve somebody else's football club, which is what happened at the time. You can't just take something that isn't yours and go, I want to move it here because it suits me. I get they do it in America and stuff like that, but we have a different system. One of the reasons our football, soccer as they call it there, doesn't work so well in America in terms of commercially and stuff is, firstly, as we were talking about earlier, you don't have the advert breaks in football, right? You know what I mean? The Pepsi 5-minute challenge, you know what I mean? Just as your centre forward's about to header a goal. But you also don't have promotion and relegation, right? And promotion and relegation are fundamental to why the sport's so exciting.
It keeps the pyramid alive. Keeps it, and you look at things like how well Notts Forest are doing, how well Bournemouth are doing. And I remember,
just after yesterday, it was Bournemouth, wasn't it? So 1-5.
And I remember, I think this was when we were Bournemouth were in League One or League Two, so I went to school just outside Bournemouth. And we had a gym. It was a tiny gym, probably the same size as this room. And it was the only TV in the whole school that had Sky Sports News on it. And this was back when it was on Freeview.
You went to a posh school if you had Sky Sports News on, didn't you?
It wasn't a bad school, actually. It was a public school, but
we didn't have a TV in our school, so you do well.
And Bournemouth were about to go into administration. And we're all crowding around because there was about to be a buyout. I remember there was like 50 of us crowded in this gym, and obviously Bournemouth got bought out. And this was only 15 years ago, and then they've gone from that to competing for a place in European football. And again, that's, like you say, that's only possible because of that
the fans
rule, you know.
And promotion and relegation. I mean, let's look at the Premier League at the moment. You've got Bournemouth, Brighton. They were another club that was at the bottom of League Two playing in an athletic stadium. Who else is there at the moment?
Brentford,
of course, that, you know, for years they sat in a lot of League One and stuff. So you've got all in Fulham as well, you know, they were for years. Man City went down to League One, but Man City were always a bit too big to be at that level, if you're fair, you know, their sport. But you've got all these clubs that have experienced Premier League football because of the promotion relegation system. Now in America, it's their system and it's what works for them. And again, I think you've got to look at the size of the country and stuff, because obviously they have to split things into conferences because of travel. But it's just sheer logistics. But it doesn't work because football in America is pointless without promotion and relegation. Because it's the playoff season and all this stuff that they do, and it's similar to American football. And that's all well and good. But the way people perceive football as a sport is if you finish first, you win. Right?
You finish last, you get relegated.
You don't know, top. You know, I know we have playoffs as in to go up. But we don't say, everybody who finishes in the top 8 are all going to play in a playoff, and the top 3 of that go through or something. You know, the top 2 usually go up. And then we usually have, depending on the league, the other 4 fight in a playoff. But you also got to have I don't want to say the word punishment because it sounds horrible, but it is, isn't it? You know what I mean? If you have a good season, the best day to be a football supporter, I always thought, this is particularly for when I used to go and watch games, it was the first day of the season. Because anything's possible. Right? Every football supporter on the first day of the season will wake up and go, this will be the year.
Yeah.
Every single one of you go, this will be the year. It doesn't matter that you've signed a goalkeeper with no arms. Right? You still believe this is your year.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a punishment element as well.
And the nice thing about go off the back of that, a bit about English football is anything can happen.
Yeah.
And if you take it to the extreme of Leicester winning the league,
Oh, that was.
and I know that was a bit of a mad one, but you've got Wigan winning FA Cups.
Yeah.
You had Portsmouth playing in European football in a state. Like we just said, we got Bournemouth and Notts Forest about to possibly get into European football.
St Tamworth play Tottenham Hotspur. Third round.
And get a draw out of it. And don't get me started on replays, but
it's one of the reasons I love the FA Cup, though.
Yeah, the FA Cup's a magical competition.
It is because we, for example, can't enter the FA Cup till next year.
Yeah.
Just because it's step 6 and above. All right. So when we get promoted, hopefully, we'll go to the FA Cup. And it's the only competition in the world that I can think of, right, where a club at that level, right, physically, it's never going to happen. I get this. I'm not saying it is. I'm not suggesting we could try to win the FA Cup, but could theoretically go all the way to winning it. English football and the pyramid system is something to be proud of because it's, again, you look at any other country in the world, right? You could start a football club tomorrow, right, at the bottom league of the pyramid, right, playing on, as Dorking Wanderers started a few years ago, playing on a park pitch. They're now in the comments, but you could theoretically, providing you have the right finance to do this stuff to the ground, become the champions of the Premier League in 20 years by doing it. I know it's never going to happen. I'm not suggesting that. But that's the only league in the world where that possibility is there, which is why I do think we should be very proud of English non-league football.
And the players also have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like going back to Leicester and Jamie Vardy, going from Fleetwood Town to win the Premier League with Leicester, or Joe Hart, who was at Shrewsbury, signed to Man City for, I think it was £300,000.
Yeah.
But this is why the FA Cup's a good competition, because it gives the lower teams the opportunity to play the big teams.
Showcases.
And, and it generates money for the clubs.
And I, again, as a football chairman, you sit there and go, I don't want to always be on about money. And I have it, like, even when we're on board, when we're here, the guys who are on the committee and they're on the board, I feel bad when I'm always on it. I'm going, well, we need to raise this revenue. We need to But the reality is football is money. You can't, one way or another, whether you run a Sunday morning pub team or whether you run Manchester City, there is money involved because everything costs money in life, right? And that's the key thing. Like the FA Cup, the revenues off it are brilliant for teams. And you look at some of the teams that if they invest it wisely, if they have a good FA Cup run, they can earn a couple of million quid and invest that wisely, and all of a sudden their future is done for the next 10, 20, 30 years. But, there was a team not long back in it, Marine. It was Tottenham against Australia. Tottenham always seems to get drawn against them. They played Marine. It was just post COVID, so they were allowed some sports, not a full ground, so they didn't even get the full amount that it got. But they invested that so wisely. They're now at step 2. They were at step 4 at the time. Within 2 years, they're at step 2. A nice ground, good setup. If you invest in what you can do it the other way, where you can just go, I'm going to spend all that on my players, and I'm going to bring in a load of players who are going to be massively overpriced, and that's going to burn out within 3 years.
And I guess, and also if it doesn't burn out and you do get to the bigger leagues, you then got the challenge of FFP. So it's not so.
Obviously, that's only something from. I don't think FFP exists below conference.
So you either go one or two ways. Like say, it burns out completely, or you do achieve your League One, your Championship. But on that model, you then burn it because you can't do that as you go up.
I mean, since FFP Cup in football's changed because you can never do what a Man City, particularly Chelsea.
I think
Chelsea when they did.
I think everyone talks about Man City, but I think that's just because they're the latest to do it. But really, I think it was Chelsea.
Chelsea were the first club to have somebody come in
and just go, here's a blank check.
And go, we're not going to be 12th anymore, we're going to be first. And I don't do politics, so the way things happen when you sold the club, that's irrelevant. You got to look at when it first happened. You pumped a lot of money into a football club. Historically, Chelsea are a brilliant club. But they'd been doing nothing for quite a few years. And they've just been existing. You pumped a load of money in. Is it a good or bad thing? Depends which way you look at it. Because if you're a Chelsea supporter, it's a bloody brilliant thing. Because all of a sudden your club is really realising the potential that it has. If you support everybody else, you're going, that's an unfair advantage. FFP, it's so easy to manipulate for clubs, and they're doing it now.
Yeah.
And and I'm
Clever
not knocking anyone for doing
solicitors.
it, but these, you're thinking the FA and even the Premier League, they set the FFP up, and it'll be in guidance with their solicitors and things like that. These football clubs can afford solicitors and lawyers and all sorts. They're way beyond what the leagues and the associations can afford because they've got so much more money. Right? Man City are owned by one of the richest men in the world. Newcastle are, teams like that. Ultimately, it's no different to, again, we're talking about money in football, right? If I've got 100 million in the bank and you've got 1 million, and we both want him to play centre forward for us because he's the best striker in the world, which if you are, you can stay.
Wish I was.
I'm going to win that because I'm going to have him. So you're then going to have to buy the £1 million striker. Who's going to score more goals? I am. My team is.
But also, it's not just about you can give the better wages, which you can, but who can give the better facilities? Who can, better facilities, better accommodation, better perks, better bonuses. So it's all the stuff that goes around it as well.
That's the thing with what they do with FFP, because they get the best of the best, not just footballers but legal teams. Right. So ultimately, the charges Man City have got against them and stuff like that, there's no way anything major's going to have profit because they're legal teams. They're going to go, no, here's this rule, here's what we did, done. Nothing wrong with that, because I always say there's nothing. At the end of the day, whether you use a loophole or not, it exists. So get on with it. You know what I mean? It's the rules. But again, there's always the question of fairness. I mean, I grew up in sort of the 80s and 90s, and it was an era where I wouldn't say anybody could win the league. But it did have different teams winning. It wasn't like now where it's almost a procession. When you've got clubs like Man United, historically Man United are one of the biggest clubs in the country, who at the moment are about as close to winning the Premier League title as we are. At Telford Town, you know what I mean? They're miles away. And you go in financially, Manchester United can't catch up with Man City and teams like that. I think football's, what he did is he brought FFP in too late. And it's too far gone. You can't go, well, they've already done it, so it's going to stop anyone else.
And that's the trouble, like Chelsea and Man City have had that initial investment, which they can now build on. Newcastle obviously now being bought by similar consortiums.
But it's taking them a lot longer because they can't
just dump the money. So Newcastle fans are going, well, we got the fans because they've got some. I worked the Southampton game yesterday, and I was in the away section. Newcastle fans were brilliant. And I lived up there, great people. So they got the infrastructure to grow. They've now got the money, but that money can't get to where it needs to get. So it's a trickle down event, and they're saying there, well, Man City's done it, Chelsea's done it. Now, I'd say the difference between Chelsea and Man City was when Chelsea first got bought, they did bring the right people in. So they brought Mourinho in, they brought Drogba in. As a Man City, it took them a while to do that, because I think they just threw money in.
They made some, I wouldn't say with some poor signs, but it took them longer to do. I do agree. I think you're quite right what you said, Newcastle. Let's use all three of those clubs, right? Newcastle, Man City and Chelsea. Forget what they've achieved in, people always talk about, they've done nothing for 20 years. They're still massive football clubs, right? It's not like somebody buying Telford Town and deciding we're going to win the Champions League and we've got 300 people watching it. That's unsustainable. That's just a bloke pumping money in. That's what FFP should be used for. It shouldn't be used to block clubs who have already got fan bases, who are already big clubs, from progressing and trying to catch those elite clubs. And that's my issue with football now, is it isn't run by all clubs. It's run for the benefit of 4 or 5 clubs.
Well, the biggest example of that was the that breakaway league that was attempted. I mean, obviously, I know it got shot down quite quickly, but
but again, that shows support.
But that was support power. But the audacity to try it in the first place, I think, shows you like you say, the mindset of these super clubs, if you want to call it that. Their mindset is we are above everyone else.
That's why. That's why I admire their supporters. Right? You got to admire the fact they turned around and went, "No, we don't want to do that," because ultimately this is our club, and it's what I said earlier. You don't own a football club, right? Whether you're Sheikh Mansour, whether you're Ade Dando, or whatever you are, you don't own that football club. The supporters do. Whether there's 100 of them or whether there's 100 million of them, right? So the long and short is what they did there was superb. I personally believe the Super League was only ever a financial power play for the British clubs, at least. It was never going to actually happen, right? It was being driven by a couple of clubs in Europe who got financial issues, as we know. But the clubs in England, I don't think ever actually fully intended. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know because I went in there, but I'd be surprised if they fully intended to go ahead with that. It felt to me like it was more of a flex at UEFA, and saying, "Give us something what we want."
Yeah.
Right. And again, we were talking about. We're not going to get into replays because it's such a long debate.
Conversation.
But we talked about the FA Cup replay issue, right, which is costing non-league clubs money, and it's ultimately being done to protect the Premier League because they're having to play more games. Yeah. But if you're in the Champions League this year, right, you're having to play 2 more games already.
Yeah.
So you've basically, money has taken over from that point of view.
And the thing is with FA Cup, it's the oldest competitive football tournament. In fact, I think it's one, other than maybe the Olympics, it's one of the oldest sporting tournaments in the world.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
You know, so it's such an institution, and replay, as far as I know, has been a thing forever. And like I say, these smaller clubs are losing out. Now, I think the replays are great because for your 300 fans, or your 500,000, or your 1,000 fans, they get the opportunity to go to the bigger stadiums, have a day out, enjoy themselves. That's taken away. But the very least, and I said this earlier, the very least, these clubs should be getting paid what they're due. So if you, like the other day, if you draw a Tottenham or you draw a Man United at home, then the club or the FA or a mixture of both should go, right, if that game was replayed at Old Trafford or White Hart Lane or the Olympic Park or whatever, that would be £3 million.
Yeah.
So that £3 million should then be given to that club.
Yeah.
Because to draw with a Premier League team, realistically, they've got no chance in that half an hour injury time because they're not full-time athletes. And even your B, C, and maybe your D teams of Premier League clubs are full-time athletes.
Yeah.
You know,
there's only part-time in the Premier League.
So the people that are in these clubs that have day jobs, working all week, physically, they can't keep up. To keep up for 90 minutes is such an achievement. And that reward was, well done, you're going to X stadium. You know, that's been taken away. So they should at least get...
I think the thing with me with replays is, all right, and people will say, yeah, but they might not be drawn at home in the first game. They might. So let's say that Tottenham Tamworth.
Yeah.
Let's say the draw's at Tottenham.
Yeah.
Right, the game's at Tottenham for the first game. Okay, but only 5,000 or whatever the allocation. Only 5,000 Tamworth fans can go and see it.
Yeah.
But what a special day for them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for the players playing at Tottenham Stadium, stunning.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But having the opportunity to compete against the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
But so we've had our first game at Tottenham, right? And we've drawn 0-0, and the replay's back at Tamworth. Again, we've also got a special moment there where we've got Tottenham coming to little old Tamworth, as it were, type situation. No, Tamworth are a little club, by the way, but you know, you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So taking away the financial element of it, we're also removing some of the spectacle because we're also damaging some of the Premier League fans because I know loads of supporters of Premier League clubs who buzz when they draw like a non-league club away. They love going to it because it's something different for them. You know, they can stand on the terraces, which you can't do in the...
Well, I'll give you a good example. I used to be a season ticket holder for Man United.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But going back on what you're saying, one of my best day outs as a away day was Yeovil Town.
Yeah.
It was an FA Cup game and we won.
As a Man United fan as well, where you live, was that actually closer than the home?
Well, at the time, I was actually living in Manchester. So
all right. We'll go with that.
But it was such a good day out because, like you say, it was something different. You're right on the pitch. Yeah. So there was only about 800 of us. Now, there is a lot of jokes about Man United fans being plastic fans and stuff like that, which I get. But Man United away fans are brilliant. Like,
listen, away supporters at any level.
Generally, if
the most
if you're into your football, and I'm not talking about sofa watchers, you generally go to the games. Anyone will tell you your away fans are where your loyal fans are. Yeah. So when I used to go to away games for United, it was the same faces you would see. Yeah. And I remember when I lived in Manchester, I'll bump into people in the street. I wouldn't even know their name. I'm like, oh, hello, mate, you going to the, and away fans are brilliant. And they also will keep the club going.
I mean, look, away fans, they're the lifeblood of a club because they're the people who really get it. Like, they're the guys who, I was talking about Plymouth Argyle playing Middlesbrough away on a Tuesday. And they were leaving at like something stupid in the morning to go, a 10-hour trip each way. I mean, you guys have done a 4-hour trip each way. It's tiring. I mean, I'm not saying the coach driver didn't get paid, but you know what I mean? You just think that commitment levels. The guys at the clubs who are the big clubs as well, the ones who go to Europe. Obviously Villa at the moment are in Europe, and I know quite a few lads who are Villa fans, and they're going and following them. All these these supports abroad. That's costing you real money. Right? So that is real commitment to a football club. Now they're the people who a football club belongs to. Like you say about Man United fans, and look, Old Trafford is obviously it's a famous stadium, so it's a bit of a tourist attraction as well, right? And it is you do get to Old Trafford, and it is. There's a lot of tourists, right? But in a way, he's proper Man United fan.
So unless you sit in the Stratford end of Old Trafford, it is generally tourists. But that's not unique to Old Trafford. That's the same with Anfield.
Pretty much any of the big.
Yeah, that's the same with Anfield. It's the same with Stamford Bridge. And it's turning the same as the City Ground as well. That's going that.
Well, the City Ground, I mean, you're talking about the history there is related obviously to one of your also Brian Clough, who I think was I do think he was the best manager that's ever lived.
Yeah.
And I also think he was somebody who cared about football in its more pure form.
Yes.
And that's probably why he went to war with everybody who he felt was. Now, don't get me wrong, do I think Brian Clough could manage today? No. Because in today's society, and even in football, Brian Clough would be offensive because of the things he said. Now, you ask any player who played for Brian Clough, did they find him offensive? They loved him. They were terrified of him, but they loved him.
But it just shows how the game's changed as well.
Yeah, because now if he shouted at one of his players and told him he's crap or something, that player would put a report into HR. Right?
All the press.
He'd be off for 2 months with stress, or 100 grand a week because it's difficult. Because he got shouted at that he was crap.
You can say the same with Sir Alex Ferguson as well. I don't think
you'll get managers like that ever again.
No, you won't.
I think when I'm a big fan of Mourinho as well, and I think when Mourinho and Ancelotti retire, that's the last bastions of old school managers were like your Wengers, your Benitez, your Fergies. Obviously, growing up, there was a big rivalry between Man United and Arsenal, which was great. But looking back at it, what Wenger done for the Premier League as well, and he was
he brought techniques in, and I remember reading about it. He was stunned when he walked into Arsenal and seeing the food they were eating and stuff like that. And it's stuff that, even in non-league now, filters down. The lads do try and eat a bit better. Not so much after a game, they eat curry. So I ain't going to pretend we sit here, they're all eating us, but that's pretty much, they'll eat the right things. We haven't got nutritionists, they just use common sense. And some of them have been at pro clubs when they were younger, so they might have been told. But I just think that managers now have become, there's no personality anymore. But you don't get players with the same personality as you used to, right? Gazza was my idol growing up, right? And he's got his demons, and you know what I mean. He's one of them guys where everyone in the country, I think, wants it to work out for Gazza one way or another, right? But he's got his demons. What a player, and what a personality as well, right? I was actually talking to my wife. Now, my wife's not really that into football. She comes to the games here, but she's not that into it. She likes it here, but she's.
But again, that proves the community aspect.
She likes it because the kids run around and stuff as well. And, I was talking to her about the 90s and football, right? And I said, you could never now have what we had then with Wimbledon. As we were talking about the old Wimbledon, that had crowds of 3,000, had no bloody money. They were always skinned. And made superstars out of Vinnie Jones, John Fashanu. John Fashanu played for England at one point. That's mad because he was never a crap. But what they did at Wimbledon so well was they went, well, these are our strengths, so we're going to play to this. Right? Those characters are never going to exist now, right? Because I'm not criticising the people themselves. I'm criticising the machine that's behind it all, really, that creates these PR trained people that I hear this question. It's almost like a computer. It's like doing AI. You never type into AI a question, it gives you the word for word answer. It feels like that.
But I find that a lot of players now, these superstars, are there as a sponsoring exercise. So they're there as a face for the club. They're there as to sponsors.
I mean, football now. The value of a footballer now is different.
It is, totally.
So if you play, I play Football Manager. It's probably the one time when I try and be a manager, and that's probably why I've got no interest in managing a football team because I'm crap. Right? But if you play that, you buy a player because you want him to score goals, right? At non-league, it's still the same in the sense of what you value a player in terms of his wages is what he's doing on the pitch.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, that's probably a third of what his value is. Because his first value is going to be how many shirts does he sell? Yeah. The second value is what advertisements he's going to bring. And the third value is what he's bringing on the pitch, right? And I get it from a business point of view, 100%. But from a football point of view, I do think that's part of the reason why players are so scared to say anything controversial, and be like Gaza was, or like Vinnie Jones and say whatever came into their head. I'm not saying it was always right what they said, by the way, but you're not going to get that there because ultimately that could cost them an endorsement deal that could, for them, and they're a brand themselves.
And that'll lose,
Players are a brand now, Premier League footballers.
And you go back like old school managers like Tony Pulis, what he done at Stoke. I love the when he said when he got promoted, he phoned Alex Ferguson up for a bit of advice. Alex Ferguson, if any of the big four clubs say praise you, you're doing something wrong. So he said they shrunk the pitch to the smallest it could be within regulations. Grew the grass. Obviously they got Rory Delap, cult hero, and they just basically they were just aggressive. You couldn't get away with that. And
Stoke were probably the last of those teams that you could do that, where you could have a bit of personality. You had Ricardo Fuller, Rory Delap, as you say, Ryan Shawcross, people like that, who weren't necessarily the best players, but you could tell they gave a toss about their club.
And you found what they were good at and utilised it. And also the rivalries are dying out. Do you know
what? I think rivalries are strange because there seems to now not be. Our group was always based on geography, right? Pompey and Southampton hating each other, West Brom and Wolves, Villa and Blues. I don't know, Man City, Man United. Now all of a sudden, Man City have got a rivalry with Liverpool that never existed before. Just because they're both fighting for the titles. You've got random ones like Wrexham had a rivalry at one point with Notts County because they were both fighting for the conference title. I get it to an extent, but I feel like there's more manufactured rivalries now the corporate rivalries rather than supporter ones.
The players are hugging each other in the tunnel and
all know each other. I mean, I'm not saying non-league players do. We had a good quarter final yesterday, and our lads knew a lot of their players. I'm not saying they don't know each other, but at the same time, I do think it's one of the only things that really riles me with professional footballers, and I think it's disrespectful, is you've just been beat 2-0 playing against whoever. And then they walk off doing this, so nobody can see their lips, so they can't be let red, talking to a player from the other team. And I'm sorry, you are not saying anything that you should be saying. If you're doing that, there's a bloody reason you're doing it. And I thought, there's no reason they've got to do that on the pitch. You can have that conversation. Right? Professional football clubs, again, you guys have worked them. Right? They're big bloody places. They're not like here where it's a small place and everyone can sit. They're a big place. We'll have a chat, get down the tunnel. There's enough space. Right? I just think it's disrespectful to supporters. Right? If I've paid 40 quid, which I think the Premier League takes about 40 quid in. Right? I've paid 40 quid and then I've brought me beer for 10 quid that they pour out of a can into a plastic cup.
It's warm, I've
had my hot dog that was once vaguely looked like a sausage. Right? So I've parted with the best part of 60 quid. Of my hard-earned money, you know what I mean? I'm Sam someone else, you know what I mean? I've got a regular job and you're then walking past me on 100 grand a week, half the time not even acknowledging that I'm there and I've given you that support. You've just been beaten, you're representing the team I love, and you're talking to their player and doing that. Why? For me, it's a bit of respect for supporters. Right? I've got such a big thing about the lack of respect in football for supporters now. Because ultimately, like I say, this is from somebody who, I said, when I was at Hensford, you go back over some of the stuff I did at Hensford. Right? I was disrespectful at times to supporters because I was an idiot and I was young and I was cocky. Right? If you haven't got supporters, you're screwed. Right? The thing with it is, and the lack of respect towards supporters, I thought COVID might have changed it, but it hasn't. Because COVID proved all of a sudden there was a lot less money in football with COVID. Right? Not because they didn't have the match day revenue, because the Premier League match day revenue, probably pays for the reserve team goalkeeper. Do you know what I mean? The match day revenue is nothing. But the sponsor revenue goes down. Because there's less eyes on it. Right? Match day advertising boards that go around the pitch. Right? They're all well and good because they're on the TV, and I get that. Yeah? What if your board's this side? It's not facing the TV. Right?
Exactly.
They're there because people buy them. The sponsor, people don't realize the sponsorship isn't just that, because you've got sponsorship all around the grounds, haven't you? I mean, different things.
Yeah.
All those secondary incomes that other companies get are all down to sponsorship, all down to people spending their money going to watch football matches.
Well, I think, like you said, during COVID, I watched 1 or 2 games on telly. That was it. But just because it didn't have, but that will have a knock-on effect, because all these corporations, they're not stupid people.
No, they've got that kind of money by being dumb,
they will have the viewing figures, and they'll go, hang on a minute, it was 10 million people, now 1 million person are watching this game. Why will I'm not going to pay you X amount? I'm going to pay you. So
I believe quite a lot of deals as well, particularly with like Sky advertisers, are based on viewing figures.
Yeah.
So we've agreed this much if you get 10 million viewers or whatever. Yeah. 3 million, it's like a sliding scale, I think. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. So all of a sudden there's less income for Sky, right? And everyone just talks about Sky. I mean, I'll say there's Sky, there's TNT, there's BT, there's a few broadcasters, premium broadcasters, who I have zero time for when it comes to not just sport, in business. As I've said earlier, I've had nothing positive about them for years, because they whip the backside out of people, right? A guy has one of them fire stick things or something. They will pay to prosecute him half the time, right? And then they'll advertise it proudly. You go in, okay, I get that it's illegal. I get him should be prosecuted, especially if he's doing, selling loads of them. But don't celebrate it like you've achieved something that saved you millions of pounds, when ultimately you're charging so much money. To then mess around the football supporter that's travelling on a Friday night because you've decided the games don't even make sense. Friday night, who should we stick on? And they look at the fixture list and they go, Gillingham versus Port Vale, that's the one everyone wants on a Friday night. Nobody's watching the game apart from Gillingham and Vale supporters and maybe a few others here and there. But the Gillingham and Port Vale supporters who are going to travel, they don't give 2 tosses about it.
No.
Right? So when COVID happened, their incomes dropped, because all of a sudden advertisers went, well, there's less people watching, so why am I going to put my money into you? So what happens then is they start to argue with the Premier League and the FA. Well, they're not spending as much, so should our deal still be how it was? And look, you're never going to get money go downwards. I'm not saying you won't, because football will always be a global brand. But it was just an example of, similar to the Super League and everything else, that every so often football supporters do something. And I'm not talking about doing something naughty. I'm talking about doing like what they did with the Chelsea fans doing the protest. Remind football club owners and broadcasters and all these people, football is their game. Right? Football is, and I'm not, sounds cliche, but football is the people's game in the sense of football is a game that, it's one of the few sports in the world that the three of us right now, and I'm not going to suggest we do this a little bit wet, but the three of us could have a game, one way or another, we could make a game of football, right? And it's one of the few things in the world that's that pure on a basic level. So every so often, it's really good, I think, when the supporters just remind them, it's not your game, it's theirs.
Well, the thing is, going back to the fire sticks, like football's meant to be a working class game for that exact reason. It's such a simple concept. You need something to kick and 2 things to make a goal. And this is why, like what we were saying earlier, a lot of the South American teams do so well, because a lot of the kids, and Portugal as well, a lot of the kids don't have any money. They can't afford a football, so they found a Coke can, a water bottle,
and a couple of rocks.
So that's why they're so good. So it is meant to be the working man's game. And if you look at terms of elite sports, there's probably more people in professional football that have come from a working class or a poorer background than any other sport because of how simplistic it is. So it is the working man's game for all intents and purposes, or the working women's game. So if you looked at, I think I looked at a figure, so if you paid all the broadcasters, because now you've got 3 or 4, to watch all the games, you're looking at £3,500 to £4,000 a year.
That's just privately as well. So that's just in your house.
And that's without going on to your local pubs, places like here that's got a bar that are struggling anyway. So that's £3,500 to £4,000 a year.
A lot of money.
The working class people don't have. If you're on a salary of £30,000, which is not a bad salary in this country.
No, it's not bad.
That then takes it down to 26.
It's 10% of your salary. Who the hell could justify 10% of your salary to watch footy?
Exactly.
I ain't being funny. Like, I live for football. I love the game. I love everything about it. I love the people. I couldn't justify 10% of my annual income being on football. Whether that's supporting a football club, whether it's buying a Sky Sports subscription or anything else. And the maddest thing about it is, we're talking about being a working class game, right? If you've got your Sky Sports subscription, your TNT, your BT, and all these brokers, you've got your $4,000 a year there. But what about if you can't afford, then straight away, you probably can't afford to go to away games if you've got that. It's probably why you've got it.
Yeah.
But you go to all your home games, you've got your season ticket.
Yeah.
There's another 900 quid out.
Yeah.
Right? Then you got your food, your drink, your travel to and from a game, right? Yeah. Car parking. Try and park near a Premier League club. If you get less than 10 quid, you're doing well. Right? If you're across the way, I mean, if it's a London club, it's even worse, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It is.
But you see my point is, all of a sudden, he's probably not 3 or 4 grand here for the average working mate. Actually, probably closer to double that when you include the fact he goes to the matches occasionally, right? Because you can't turn your subscription off until 12 months. You can't go, oh, well, I don't need it this month because we're you try to middle of summer, right? I've got Sky Sports in my house. I have all the Sky Sports packages, right? I genuinely mean this when I say in the middle of summer, from the end of the football season until the start of the football season, I might turn it on twice to see Sky Sports News, but I still charge for it.
Yeah.
And you try and cancel your Sky Sports package for the summer. So I don't want it for the summer because the football's not on. They might let you reduce it, they'll knock your Sky Sports down.
By a couple of quid.
By a couple of quid, And then when you put it back on, that special deal that you're on, that doesn't exist now. But it is what you can start this, but you got to pay 42 quid. And look, I get it, it's commercial, it's business, I get it. But I just think we're taking football now. And this is why non-league's becoming more popular, people, because we've took football in its traditional sense, your traditional clubs that you might, your dad's followed, your granddad's followed, whatever. We took it away from the working class men, the working class women. They can't go to it. You can't justify it. You've got a family of 4 of you. Jesus Christ, the money you've got to earn to be able to have a season ticket. They're coming to non-league because of that. No, we've got quite a few here who have been season ticket holders at Wolves, Albion, and whatever. They come here because it's like a tenth of the price.
I think the other position on that as well. Now, obviously, the FA Cup final is protected, and so it should be. But so much football that was available even when I was a kid has been taken away. So when I was younger, I could watch the Europa League on Channel 5. I could watch the ITV had the Champions League, so they have at least one leg.
I know I'm getting old when he remembers watching the Europa League on Channel 5. I remember watching the Cup Winners' Cup when it first came out on Channel 5.
So you had like the Champions League, you had the Europa League you could watch, you had all the FA Cup games were on terrestrial TV. So all these games you could watch. Now I think the Europa League's gone. The
Europa League's on.
The Champions League's gone completely. Half the FA Cup's gone. So that ability to be able to watch games.
Unless you have a subscription package,
you might get
match of the day. That's it. And I think there's a football. There might be. I don't even know if there is anymore. There used to be a football league highlights. But you've got no access to the game to watch it live.
This is it. You used to be able to watch on like BBC One or ITV, the African Cup of Nations. And things like that.
Anything.
And you can't now.
I remember watching. I'm not a fan of Middlesbrough or anything like that. But I remember watching Middlesbrough in the Europa League final.
Yeah, it was
because it was on. They were the underdogs. They were an English side.
Yeah.
So it was almost like supporting England in a way.
Yeah.
Football. I remember watching it being about 18, right? And I remember going out about 3 a.m. I'd been out, so I had rather a few too many, as I tended to when I was 18. And I remember turning on, it was on Channel 4 or Channel 5, and watching a Dutch second division game. They just brought the rights to the Dutch second division randomly, But it was brilliant. Now, I grew up in probably the era before you in that sense, where football wasn't on all the time, wasn't relentless. It was sort of around the time Sky had come out, right? But you still had football on terrestrial TV. You can still watch Football Italia on a Saturday morning, which was class. You could, there was still usually a game on ITV on a Sunday afternoon. And you had Sky. And look, I've got no issue with the being broadcasters, premium service broadcasters, because as we said earlier with AI, life changes, right? No issue with that.
It does bring in revenue in some ways.
Yeah, and there's no issue with, I've got no problem people making money, Jesus Christ. But why can't we have a protected game every week that has to be on TV? Why have we got this in? I know people will say, well, you've said you don't want people to be moving schedules, right? If I'm Arsenal, Man United, fucking Man City, I don't know, who else, whatever big clubs you want to talk about, I'll support them. I'm not going to have an issue if once in a while the game's on a Sunday.
Yeah.
I've got an issue if my games every week can be a Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday, a Monday, a 5 o'clock. 10. That's where the issue lies.
And then, like you say, geography as well. Where
use your common sense.
It's not just a Tuesday night game. It's like you Plymouth Middlesbrough.
Exactly. And then it's the money and the extra costs of getting a coach.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to get the players up to these. You know, on a ridiculous time when they've been like lower league clubs.
Yeah.
Like you say, they've got a second job. These players, and they finish work at 5 o'clock. And they've got to be like about a 4-hour journey.
Yeah.
My mate's one of the directors at Rushall Olympic, and they're at step 2, so the Conference North, right? And the logistics of the Conference North sounds very simple. You'd think everything's that way.
Yeah.
But because of the way it doesn't, obviously the way you have to build a spread, I get this. And to be fair, I've been critically fan before, but I can't actually criticise this. Ultimately, you've got Conference North and South, you've got 2 leagues to fill with those teams that are there who have earned it on sport merit. So Needham Market have ended up in that division. And Needham Market are by Ipswich, but they're playing in the Conference North.
Yeah, it's weird.
So some of their travel, I think it's just because the way they had to look, somebody's got to, and it worked.
Yeah.
But if you're Needham Market, that's going to be difficult on a Tuesday night. If your lads have been at work, and again, I've been to Needham a couple of times before, and it's a lovely club. That's going to be hard. If your lads are at work on a Tuesday, right? You basically got to say that I don't know. You're playing even Rushall, to be fair, because they're only Midlands. But so I'm not even saying you're in really North like Boyth or somewhere like that. I'm saying Rushall. You've got to say to your players, you need to have half a day off work.
Yeah. They can finish at 1 o'clock.
What if they're gaffered on our football? What if they're gaffered? You know what I mean? It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you have teams, and it does happen quite often. You have teams who are shorter players because they're at work.
Yeah.
So it's not as competitive because it's not the team they would like to play. Or you have lads, in 90% of cases, who are losing cash to be there.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to, and then you've got your supporters.
You got to have a real love of the game.
Oh, God, yeah. But then you've got your supporters for your non-league club. They've got to have half a day off and all.
Yeah.
And we talk about non-league clubs about value, but it's still that's still a long track, right? So I don't know how that works, and again, I'm not going to criticise because I don't know their fixtures. So I'm not going to say that the National League, who organise that, make them do that because I don't know if they do or whether they use some common sense and go, well, who can we get who's nearby on a Tuesday night rather than or closer than sending them to Blythe Spartans away. Yeah. That being said, given the way some football governance is in some levels, it wouldn't shock me, right? I remember a couple of years ago watching Friday night football, watching Exeter versus Carlisle.
That's unbelievable.
And you're going, who the hell sat there and went, yep, that's a good idea, we'll do that.
I don't think...
No, John, don't do it on a Sunday afternoon. No, do it on a Friday night.
I don't think you can get a further distance, could you?
Nah,
you can, you know.
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was the furthest I'd seen. But I do remember, I just remember there's a big thing about it. It was like on a Friday night. I get your comments about geography.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, Plymouth have got to travel to Middlesbrough this season. I get it, but
do it on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening.
Yeah, you know, they've still got to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But it's a Saturday. Most people, not everybody, some people have to work Saturdays, we all work Saturdays, but most people, Saturday's a traditional football day. I just wish there was some more common sense, just more giving a toss about the people who are ultimately responsible for the game, which is supporters.
No, definitely. So within terms of non-league, obviously, I know they're now in the football pyramid, but obviously everyone thinks of Wrexham because of the Hollywood money, and also Dorking now as well, sort of Mark Price in the limelight quite a lot. Has that helped or hindered other clubs that don't have that luxury?
Oh no, I think it's helped massively. I mean, I think look, you can criticise the Wrexham money thing, but at the same time, they've also invested in the town. They haven't just brought the football club and gone, and we're just going to buy every player. They do actually invest. They're not. I was sceptical, right? I've gone, okay, like why have they brought a football club? This is going to be basically. I thought it was a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
Right? And some people go, but they had the documentary. Yeah, okay. But do you really think Ryan Reynolds is sitting there trying to work out how he can make a couple of million quid? Like, you know what I mean? I'm pretty sure he's all right for cash.
Yeah.
If we're down in the pub and he walks in, I'm sure he can stand his round. Right. Yeah. I'm looking at it more and going, I think what they've done they invested into the town, which then put non-league football on the map. All of a sudden, Maidenhead United are on the documentary on Disney.
Yeah,
so there's people in, I don't know, Florida who have heard of Maidenhead United. That's wicked. I love that. Dorking are just superb. What Mark's done there. I just think so. It's the dream for every club at our level to do what he's done. And he's took that club up there. And the guy's an absolute legend. I mean, I listened to him before doing the interview. And he was talking, he said, what's it like being chairman and manager? Yeah. He said, it's class. I said, why? He says, because if anyone tells me to sack myself, I can kick him out of the ground. And I was like, you know what, fair play. Because at the end of the day, he's earned that, right? Because that's a club he's built from nothing.
But and again, he's been successful as well.
Oh, he's been
in terms of on the pitch and off the pitch.
Yeah. I think they went down about 2 years ago. It was the first time they got relegated ever. They just got promotion. But it's also a good thing because, like I say, what it's done is it's opened people up to non-league who wouldn't have been before.
I think in terms of Mark Ryan, where he is different from Wrexham, he's probably the first individual to take a non-league football club and make it famous across the UK and make it into a personality where he's on TalkSport and he's on various podcasts. The difference
between Wrexham and Dorking is fairly simple. And I've got nothing against Ryan Rebels and Robert. I think they've done a great job there. Yeah. But do I connect with them personally? No, because I'm not I ain't doing too bad, but I don't think I'm a Hollywood actor just yet. You know what I mean? I'm not, I think my missus is going to sit there and go, Ryan Reynolds is at the door, but you can stay back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Mark, he's just somebody who you can identify with. He's a bloke down the pub. That's what I'm trying to say. He's the bloke who you do expect to be in the pub, doing a meeting, sitting there ranting about how football's taken over by whatever. And you can actually almost imagine him going, I'm going to start my own football club and doing what he did.
But he's actually gone out and done it. And you talk about like common sense, and you actually speak to him, you hear him speak, and he does have common sense approach. So it's all about the badges. When you get to a certain level, you have to have badges. Like, why do I need a badge for? Like
that was brilliant. When so what are you going to do? He went, I want somebody with a badge that can sit there and not manage the team.
Yeah, he's like, why do I need a badge? What happens when, like you said, my centre forward turns up half cut on the night out? That's not in the badge. Or his missus has kicked him out and he's got his belongings in the van. He don't know where he's going to. There's so many elements to it. Like anything to do with kids football, vulnerable people, fine. That's
not bad. That's DBS. That's education. I think that's a fantastic thing.
For obvious reasons, fair enough. But it's that no common sense. He's running a football team with adults. He's proven it. Why does he?
I mean, I've with some of our players, they might be over 18, but adults is a stretch.
That's true.
I totally agree. It's crazy that we basically try to dictate what qualifications you have to do a job that you've already done. Right? If the rule was you cannot manage any club in the pyramid without these badges, which they can never do because the reality is the badges they're very expensive.
Then there's
a lot of money. I couldn't afford to fund. They said all of a sudden I'm going to fund a 10 grand badge for my manager. I'll be going, well, what happens if he quits next week? Well, you have to fund a 10 grand badge for your next one. So I'll just, I've just got that in the till, mate. Do you want it in cash? But the problem is, Mark White's done what he's done. He's took a team from there, literally the lowest level you can get in non-league football, to the highest level you can get in non-league football, right? But then we're saying that is almost an arrogance, right, of football going, you've done really well. But if you want to be here, you have to do this our way. This is how you do a coaching course. How many coaching sessions has that bloke put on over the years? You know what I mean? But they were telling, and that was fine until you got there, but now you're with the big boys. It's a lot of crap. Right? Badges are...
Do you think it's a money-making exercise for the FA?
Just about to say, I think it is. But...
Or do you think it's just someone that thinks it's best but has no common sense?
I think it's a combination of two. I mean, look, the FA are no different to any other organisation. They've got to find money. So they have to, it's what players, when they get sent off. If I have a player sent off yesterday, I think we had one booked yesterday. Right? Our striker got booked yesterday. And I think it's about 14 quid for a booking. The same in the Premier League.
We
charge the same money in the Premier League as we do in non-league.
I was watching the Ben Foster podcast. I was mad that no matter what level of football, whether it's the Premier League and it's Man City, Liverpool fighting for the title on the last day, or a little, not little, that's a bit disrespectful. A club like at your level, yellow and red cards, the exact same fine.
Yeah, it's mental.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely.
It is. It's crazy when you think that
I kind of.
a fine is ultimately a punishment, right? That's what we're using a fine for, right? You've got two types of punishment, haven't you? Which is the number of matches and the financial, right? Well, you can't suspend for different numbers of matches because that would be stupid. So, because I wouldn't expect to say, well, you're a non-league club, your centre forward or your centre half kicks somebody up in the air. He only has 3 matches, but if he doesn't in the Premier League, it's 10. I'm not suggesting that. But the financial side should be a very similar thing. If you're in the Premier, it should be a percentage, or it should be just a bit more common sense to go. Because with all due respect, if I'm a Premier League player and it gets close to Christmas, right, and I'm on 4 bookings, and I fancy Christmas off, I'm not going to be too gutted about losing 14 quid. So I'm just going to gob off at the ref, get a booking, I can have Christmas off, and suspend it.
There's managers that come out and said they've managed players that have done that. Where they've taken their shirt off, or just to get that.
If you watch really carefully, and because I'm really sad, and I'll sit there and you'll notice the same players every year that are suspended around Christmas. I love Christmas, so I mean, I'd probably do it if I was a pro footballer. But the point we're making about badges and things like that, it's all about common sense, and that's what's missing in the game, right? We're telling Mark White, who's put on hundreds of sessions, right? He's probably, if you looked at the number of trophies and promotions of every manager in the Football League, not the Premier League, because they've usually won stuff to even be there. So let's go from Championship downwards. He's probably won more than 95% of those. I don't care what the level is. He's won it, right? You can win that level, but he's only got players who are playing at that level to win it.
And also, you can only play who's in front of you.
Of course.
But
we're turning around to Mark and saying, we know you've done that, and it's very well done. A little pat on the head. But if you want to be one of these, you've got to. It's just ridiculous. If he wasn't the chairman of Dorking, he would already have been offered a championship job somewhere. There's no two ways about it.
Well, he's just retired, isn't he? Or now?
No, that was a joke thing he was doing. He retired his jacket. It was really cool. I think it was one of the best social media ones I've ever seen. After 1,000 games, Manager Miles announced he's retired, and if you click on the dots, the dot on Facebook, it says underneath his jacket. And I just thought that is class, because you've got everybody clicking, and they're going, "Oh my god!" But I just think that again, it's just another area where you go, just put some common sense in the game. And also make the coaching badges accessible. Right? Unless you've been a professional footballer, getting your, I think it's the pro license. It's about 10 grand.
And also, how many world-class footballers have been successful managers?
It's mental.
Maybe
but this is it.
I can only think of Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah, he did all right, didn't he? I'm saying, world-class footballers. I'm going, he's probably one of the best ever played at any man's Real Madrid. He did all right.
I can't really think of, Frank Lampard's flop, Steven Gerrard's flop, Wayne Rooney's flop.
Gerrard won the league at Rangers.
I'll give it. That was a weird appointment, to be fair. But
it was strange and it worked. You are right. And look,
and then you had player managers like Viali.
I remember
that. They did it twice because Ruud Gullit did it, didn't he, first?
I remember. Was Dennis Wars a manager?
He was
player manager when they got to the FA Cup.
I remember they played Man United in the FA Cup final and he brought himself on. But
it's exactly what I'd do. Like, if I'm player manager, no matter how bad I am, we're in the FA Cup final. Gaffer, we're 1-0 down with a minute to go. You play left back. I'm coming on, bring the striker on.
It's something that I think the last time I saw that was Ryan Giggs when he was interim manager at Man United. I think that's the last time I've ever seen.
I think he come on once or twice.
And that's at the top level anyway. It probably happens.
It does happen a bit in non-league teams. I mean, I had a player manager at Hensford. And it's a difficult job to do. I think it's difficult for a manager because they've got to concentrate on one or the other, because as a player you want them to be focused on whatever role they're doing on the pitch, and they can't be if they're managing a side. So I do think it's hard, and I think it doesn't happen as much as it used to. It used to be it was like a 90s thing, wasn't it? I think there's a bit of few other nights. Glenn Hoddle, Chelsea did it a few times. I reckon that was Ken Bates just trying to save money because he had to pay one wage.
100%.
Definitely know Ken Bates, but no. I just wish we apply a bit more common sense rather than making it where only the professionals who have not necessarily big money, because 10 grand it's a lot of cash. But if you've been a decent career at championship level, you might not be a millionaire, but 10 grand you can probably do to get your coaching badge, right? But we're excluding everybody else there, and we're saying only if you've been a good footballer can you become a good coach. And like you say, how many actually do? Now, Because it's two different jobs.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
also, if you
it is.
flip it
Yeah.
and go the other way, and you look at the world-class managers, have they been players? Well, Alex Ferguson, all right, he was average,
Yeah.
but wasn't certainly
He wasn't the
world-class.
most,
He wasn't a world beater, was he?
fantastic footballer.
Yeah, he wasn't a world beater.
Jose
Nowhere near what he was as a manager. Was
No.
Jose Mourinho,
Yeah.
he? I don't think he ever played professional football.
Pep Guardiola, Wenger,
Yeah.
so they were never well. Even
Pep Guardiola was world class at Barca.
Yeah.
I think that was the only one I'll say he was. But I just think that again, we're trying to fit square pegs into round holes because it suits us. You know, just because somebody, and again, we'll use the security alarms, right? Somebody could be a great doorman. I was all right. I remember I was a doorman. I was decent. Yeah. I'd be crap on retail because I'm not customer focused. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's I wasn't a great communicator back then. In particular, I was just a bit of a I was there to throw you out rather than to have a chat. And in the same way, I don't know. So I think two jobs there. The guy who works the turnstiles might not make a very good curry. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not going to. That's basically what we're doing. We're saying because you were really good at your role out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, right? And I know they say it about one or two players. My argument to that would be, she's centre forward, you're a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Just because he's a world class striker doesn't mean he's a great goalkeeper.
No, exactly.
But we're trying to force this thing of going. Because I understand the experience side of the game that they've got, and I'm not decrying it. And I'm not saying they can't be good managers. I'm saying it doesn't give you an automatic right.
No.
Okay, going back to using the security analogy, I've seen it within operations where brilliant doorman or brilliant event security guard, they do really well. They become an operations manager or role of, and it just goes wrong.
Yeah.
Not because they're a bad person, but because that's not their strong suit. So, like you say, just because you're good at one aspect of an industry, doesn't mean pre-qualify you to.
I've done it. I've got involved in other businesses over time, and some of them I've been crap at doing. They haven't worked because I remember setting up a car garage. Right, it lasted about 6 months. I barely sold a car because I didn't know what the bloody hell I was doing. You know what I mean? I hadn't got a clue. But I just did it because I was like, that would be a good idea. It was stupid. It's a bit younger, a bit more impetuous. But that's the point, is if you've got no expertise at all in something, or it's something that's alien to you in terms of that particular role, because at that point, I'd already run several good businesses, but it's a completely different role. Selling cars isn't the same as getting people to have security services or getting people to stay in your hotel or whatever. And we're doing the same with football managers, where we're assuming just because they have a big game experience as a player, that they can do it as a manager. And what really frustrates me is the jobs they get. Like, why have you got an automatic right to get a Premier League or Championship job just because you played at that level as a player? Well, there's some managers down that pyramid who are bloody talented. And they get subbed out of teams with no money.
I think Eddie Howe's probably a prime example of that. Well, I think the theory behind it, if you have a Wayne Rooney, a Frank Lampard, a Steven Gerrard, whatever, like the golden generation, they're going to get instant respect from the players. But the problem is, when they came into football, is a different landscape, because when they came into football, they were probably scrubbing the first team boots. They were probably told by Wenger, Ferguson, whatever, you can't drive a Ferrari, you have to drive a...
And I don't think all the politics was there then as well, like there is now.
And the manager, like what you do with your manager here, that was the same in the Premier League. The manager had the final decision.
It's not the case.
But now you have youth team players, and I get it, because, all right, they get good money, so they're driving these nice cars. There's no... that grounding.
It's not their fault.
No.
It's a little show me, right? We said a lot about money, don't we, and stuff. If a player's offered 60 grand a week, should he say no? I don't think I should have that. No. If I said to you, do you want to come play for me? It's 20 grand a week. You might go, I'm crap. But if you'll go, what are you talking about? Yeah, of course, I'll score 50 goals. You might have 2 left feet. You'll take it because you offered it.
I remember when I was in South Shields, and one of the lecturers, he was a big rugby fan, he goes, all footballers are pussy holes. I said, that might be true, but I'll be a pussy off 120 grand a week.
The things I can't say on a podcast, I'll do for 120 grand. No, in reality, look, we can't blame the players. We have to blame the way football went in the system.
It's like you
can't have a kid who's never played football. He's never played football, never played a first team game. And again, when I was growing up, they used to get the YTS. And it was just becoming a bit different. But they got toughened up a little bit. And, they get 90 quid a week or whatever, which still was decent money. I'm talking in the 90s, you know what I mean? 90 it still wasn't huge money, but it's enough for a 16-year-old kid. Right? And they learnt their trade, right? In the same way, again, loads of other issues, doors and things like that, you know what I mean? You start off, you learn your trade. You don't just walk in and become a head doorman from the first day, right? They learnt the trade. Now, they don't do that. Now, like, they would, if they asked them to sweep out the dressing rooms now, they'd be so offended by it. They'd probably write to, they'd write to the HR, and the HR would tell them, you can't do that, and you've got to apologize. We've took that element away of making them understand the real world as well.
I think that's how a lot of players in like the 90s, when money really came into football, I think that's how a lot of players stayed grounded. I know a few went, AWOL, whatever, but majority stayed relatively grounded from at least from looking in. But that's because they had that grounding. They were told, you clean the boots, you sweep the changing room.
The structure system.
You don't drive the same cars as the first team. Only the first team and maybe the immediate reserves are allowed to drive your Bentleys and your Astons.
You wouldn't expect to see a 16-year-old in the 90s turning up with a Ferrari. You know what I mean?
So there was that. So that was that grounded element, which looks like it's now gone.
It seems to have been eroded. Like I say, look, the one thing I've seen people do it where you see people say, "Oh, he shouldn't be on £100 a week." What should he have said? No.
Yeah, if someone offers me £100 a week, or I ask for £100 a week, and they say yes.
Yeah, if somebody gives me £100 a week, I can tap that. I can do what you want.
I know it sounds selfish, but you have to think about yourself in the world.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of these players, if someone offers them that sort of money, they're not going to turn it down.
I think
Ivan Toney questioning themselves.
Is a prime example. Yeah, Ivan now. I'm very anti-gambling in football. It shouldn't be in football. It should be kept far away from football. It causes so many problems, but I get it. Money's money. So, but you've got a footballer that's surrounded by gambling adverts. The club sponsored by a gambling company. He then has a gambling problem, right? He doesn't, if he feels betting on himself to lose or whatever, I get it because of that, self.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing that. He was betting on other teams rather than himself.
So I get why there needs to be rules for what happened with Juventus and stuff like that, but you're surrounding the club with gambling. He then has a gambling day. He gets very little support from the FA. I think the only person that really supported him was Gareth Southgate, and I think Brentford to some degree. And then people wonder why he decides to go and play Saudi.
There's two sides to that. I mean,
because he gets a nice paycheck. Yeah. He wasn't really supported back home, so he's like, why wouldn't
There's two sides to it. I mean, firstly, he's gone to Saudi, and again, I was about to say, people going about, can't believe he's gone to Saudi and he's 28, he's in his prime. Yeah, because you can get £750 a week.
Exactly.
You offer me £750 a week, I don't care. I'll go play in Saudi. You know what I mean? I'll go play wherever you want me to. You want to send me to a desert island on my own, mate. I'll go play football and entertain you 24 hours a day for £750. Right? Don't criticise the player because he's made the decision to go and earn the money, right? Because ultimately, like we said, what you're offered is what you take.
Yeah.
But where the gambling side of it, and this goes back to education. This is something, again, I'm critical of the FA, but they're starting to get better. And I think the Ivan Toney thing's taught them a lot of lessons. They're starting to actually educate these younger players. Because what happened was, for me, is the FA are only just catching up now with the influx, as we've been talking about, of money. Okay, so when we started all of a sudden realising these youth players were valuable, and we started going, we've got to give them £20 a week. We don't want them to leave. So all these kids are not on 90 quid YTS money. They're £20 a week from day one. Right? Give a 16-year-old £20 a week. The first 6 months, he's going to buy everything. Right? He's going to buy the Rolex. He's going to buy the car. He's going to buy the outfits. He's going to buy the whatever, jewellery and all this stuff. Eventually, he's brought everything he wanted. He's bored. Right? You've got to remember, these footballers are professionals. They usually finish by 10 in the afternoon. Maybe 3 at a push. Right? They're young. They haven't got families. 16 to 18, they haven't got wives and kids and stuff like that. I know footballers get married young a lot of the time, but at this age, they're definitely going to. Very few at 16 to 18 are going to be married with the kids and all that. Right? They can't drink anymore because we removed drinking culture from football to the point where clubs monitor if you're drinking, they know. Right? So what they used to is they go out on Tuesday, I think it was. Used to be most footballers, they go out absolutely smash. So
I think Brian Clough, going back to that, he started. I think
he was the first. You can't do drugs because it's monitored. Well, obviously, drugs are illegal, but that's what a lot of people do to pass the time. You can't do drugs.
Yeah.
It's took them a while, but now I do think they're starting to catch up. I think the Ivan Toney thing's helped.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to get things right. So I'm just hopeful that it's something they continue because player welfare needs to be looked at.
So where do you see Telford going in the next 5 years?
I think after everything I've said today, probably not the Football League because the FA. Do you know what? I've said I don't want, when I took over, I haven't got a particular ambition in terms of step, right, and how many promotions. I want us to be as competitive as we can be while growing on and off the field. The key things for me are continue to grow the attendance, continue winning games and winning trophies, that's nice. Continue to grow the people who are around the club, the number of juniors. We've got a lot of ambitions that we want to do with the ground and things like that. Additional car parking that we're looking at now, new stands, we're going to try and double the size of this bar. Above all, just continue being a club that's not just about me or the manager or the centre forward or anybody, just be about the supporters and just enjoy it.
Everyone around.
Yeah, continue to build something for everybody to be proud of, really. That's the main thing for me.
Yeah.
And other than that, I don't know, just hopefully that keep winning games, I'd say. Silverware's what it's all about. I've done the whole, all that I've talked about, it's all about this, it's all about that. But I want to win. It's just, I love being on the Saturday show. As long as we're here and we're having fun, that's, above all, I want to see people smiling here because we all work hard enough, you know what I mean? So Saturday afternoon, it's nice coming and see what happens.
I think we'll leave it there unless you've got anything else to add.
It's been really good.
I've really enjoyed it. It's been interesting.